Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Tuesday, June 21st. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Notre Dame game is in 74 days, the game against Michigan in 158 days. Ohio State just landed a five-star wide receiver on Monday, and another commitment could be on the way fairly soon. Carnell Tate, a five-star receiver from IMG Academy, committed to the Buckeyes 2023 class on Monday. That's something you heard on Monday's show, a little bit discussed as a possibility. Now that that's official, we can take a little bit of a deeper dive on that, as well as another commitment that could be coming soon, and also a very big day at Ohio State's camp today. My guest today is Kevin Noon. He is the host of the Big Me Kickoff podcast. Kevin, I know Brian Hartline doesn't like being called a good recruiter, but, you know, the way he keeps bringing in five-star prospects, I'm sorry, but Brian Hartline at least seems like he knows what he's doing in the recruiting game. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, you say, "Oh, I don't want to be called a good recruiter." Well, do you want to be called a bad one? Because you're not. I mean, you're pretty good at this thing. You have the train on the tracks, and it's going in the right direction, and it's going quite quickly. And honestly, we've always joked in this industry about guys who select versus guys who recruit, and I think that that's underselling it by saying selecting, that you really are just, having to put a lot of work in there. I don't, nobody's out there outworking Brian Hartline in terms of recruiting these kids, but there are receivers that are probably number 6, 7, and 8 in the nation that probably will not get an opportunity to be part of this class just because of where Ohio State's recruiting is. Uh, and then you go to Carnell Tate, somebody who, we'll get into more specifics of him there, but Ohio State seemed to be the favorite for a long time. We went through the woods a little bit there, but I'm not sold that Ohio State wasn't the favorite all along. I think some of it was just a lot of fun noise to have out there. Sorry, Tennessee, I'm wearing some orange just to kind of rub it in a little bit. Actually, it's completely by accident. I wasn't even thinking about it, but yeah, Brian Hartline has this pretty well locked down. But the second you let your foot up off the gas, that's when you get into trouble. So fortunately for Ohio State, Brian Hartline's not relenting with what could be a really good 23 class, and we're already kind of talking about 24.
Brian Hartline is pretty much the recruiting exhibit of all gas, no brakes. And you said that, and I'm reminded of the old Jim Tressel line that recruiting is like shaving. If you miss a day, you look terrible. Well, don't miss a day, and you end up with Bryson Rogers and Carnell Tate, and potentially two more really elite top 50 kind of maybe five-star players when all is said and done in this class, just at the wide receiver position. Carnell Tate, I talked a little bit. Tony Garderman and I did a sort of instant reaction Buckeye Weekly episode that dropped Monday after Tate's commitment. We talked about the fact that Hartline will look for guys who can fit kind of anywhere. They've kind of gotten away from the recruiting the 5'9" guy who's definitely going to be in the slot and recruiting the 6'5" guy who's definitely going to play X, and that's the only place they're going to play. But it does seem like Tate probably, he could play anywhere, but he probably slots in more outside at the college level for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, he's more of an outside guy. I mean, he certainly has the ability to play inside. I mean, a little big for an inside guy in terms of what your traditional size is for somebody playing the slot, but Ohio State does so much with cross training these guys, and it'll be an interesting study this year to see what they do with Jackson Smith and Jigba when you're trying to get a Mecca Igbuka on the field. It's a lot of things that have to move around. So bring in guys that are already versatile, make them more versatile when you get them there, when you start training them and working with them, and how you're running drills with them. And I do see kind of a Garrett Wilson type in a lot of regards with Carnell Tate. I mean, he's so smooth, he's so fluid. Um, he may not be the fastest guy on the field, but I don't know a lot of people that are going to catch him. He's able to do so many things well. And you put him in a class already with Bryson Rogers, and as of the moment that we're recording this, that's as far along as they are. Let's not go ahead in our programs yet. Uh, Bryson Rogers is somebody who has his own skill set, but he too is somebody who can play inside and play outside. So, I think Ohio State really kind of likes to live in that spot now of that 5'11" and change to 6'2" type of receiver. Maybe not somebody who's built like a brick, a brick what house, but somewhere in that 180, 190 range, and then just kind of see where we get you to.
And his recruitment has taken some wild twists and turns. Ohio State was sort of considered the favorite a year ago for Carnell Tate, and he had a decision date set for October 6th, I think, last year, and then pushed that back. And then there was moaning, sort of, like, oh, he was maybe going to decide in November, December, and then that got pushed back. And then it went from a Notre Dame versus Ohio State battle to a Tennessee versus Ohio State battle, and it just kind of dragged on and on. But Mark and Bill and Alex were very consistent throughout the whole process that this was, Ohio State was still in the lead. The Tennessee fans got all excited and had all the NIL talk and lots of huge numbers being thrown around. But there he is in Ohio State's class, and obviously there's still 6 months to go before early signing day. So you never say never with the until the ink is dry on early signing day. But this does seem like a little bit of a pushback in terms of the NIL is going to be the end of the world in terms of recruiting, and everyone's going to get bought. This is one of the things that was being held up as an example of, oh, well, Carnell Tate never would have gone to Tennessee if it wasn't for NIL, 3 weeks ago, and now he's not going to Tennessee. So, maybe, I mean, am I off base there, Kevin? Maybe it's a little bit of a pump the brakes, the world may not be ending kind of thing there.
Well, I think it's up to each individual kid. There are going to be some kids that are going to just sit there and take the early exit ramp and say, I'm gonna take this money and hopefully I get developed at a school and we'll see. And they're going to be the other kids who, let's not say that he's not going to have any NIL considerations at Ohio State. I'm sure he is. So it's just a matter of which NIL he's going to get there, but he can just pop in a tape from the end of April for the NFL draft and see two Ohio State receivers go in the top 15. He can just sit there and look in the time machine and see probably in the upcoming NFL draft, Jackson Smith and Jigba going, what, top 5 potentially overall in the draft. Do you want your money? Do you want your money now? Do you want your money later? You're going to get more money later, but if you want it now, you got to call JG Wentworth, and you're gonna get pennies on the dollar. So 1-800-cash now. Um, so it's interesting because the thing too is that Tennessee, one of their big pitches is, oh well, we've already got our quarterback locked up. Well, Ohio State doesn't have a 23 quarterback locked up. Ohio State has a 24 quarterback locked up, and he happens to be the top quarterback, top player in the class of 24 with Dylan Raiola. Whether or not he's the number one player overall when it's all said and done, we'll see. Things change, but he's not going to get any less talented. I can assure you of that. So, Ohio State was not playing with a short deck going against Tennessee and its NIL millions and its Jimmy Haslam or wherever you may believe that money was coming from. Ohio State certainly is wide receiver U right now, and Tennessee is not.
I went back and looked a couple weeks ago, and if you count Jamison Williams, who went most of his way through his college career with Brian Hartline, the Buckeyes had 3 players drafted in the top 15 picks from the wide receiver position in about 20 minutes, and Tennessee had 3 wide receivers drafted in the top, or I think 2 wide receivers drafted in the top 15 in the last 20 years, and that's, you made the point. Yes, there is going to be some NIL thing on Ohio State's side, I'm sure, but there is a little bit of a long-term thing, and this is one of the things that Tony and I have talked about a bunch on Buckeye Weekly, is the development schools, the ones where they can sell you the NFL in a way that Tennessee or, Texas can't necessarily do. That sort of overrides some of those NIL concerns in some cases. This certainly seems like one of the cases where that's true. Another 5-star wide receiver from Florida, Brandon Inniss, just wrapped up his official visit over the weekend. He's another guy I talked earlier about. Mark and Bill and Alex kind of staying steady on Carnell Tate is going to end up at Ohio State. Brandon Inniss is another guy that they've been fairly consistent on that as well. We don't know a specific date and time for Brandon Inniss's commitment. That could be today, that could be in a month. We don't know yet, at least at the time of recording. But, it certainly sounds like he might end up in this class at some point relatively soon. And, then you add, if you have him, and then you're talking about Noah Rogers out of North Carolina as a possibility as well. Bryson Rogers right now is the consensus is Bryson Rogers is very underrated. So you've got the 3 guys who are top 50 players in one position group, plus Bryson Rogers, who could end up in the top 100, top 50 as well. This is you're getting into best position group classes of all time kind of conversations. If those are the 4 guys who end up in this wide receiver class.
Yeah, getting to the Bryson Rogers point, and then I'll work backward from there. Let's not forget that there was a moment in Ohio State's recruiting class that had Jackson Smith and Jigba that JSN was the third rated receiver of the three behind Julian Fleming, behind G. Scott. G. Scott obviously has gone through a position change. Julian Fleming just has not been able to stay healthy, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is assuredly playing in his final season for Ohio State and is going to go make millions of dollars in the NFL shortly. So you don't necessarily know how things are going to work out in terms of, okay, well, we bring all these guys in, we definitively know it's 1, 2, 3, and that that's how it's going to be. As for Brandon Ennis, let's not forget that Brandon and Carnell are teammates on their 7-on-7 team, the South Florida Express, so they're close. So I guarantee you Brandon Ennis was well aware of what Carnell Tate was doing. I'm sure Carnell Tate is going to be well aware of whatever Brandon Ennis's plans are going to be, whether or not that's something in the near future or the mid future. I don't necessarily see it being the far future. Ennis fits right into that 6 foot buck 90 frame or whatever. Somebody else that, and I talked to a lot of people and it's like, let's kind of go through the receivers for 2023. A lot of guys like Carnell Tate, a lot of guys like Brandon Ennis. I mean, Ohio State's sitting there, on the precipice of landing both of them. So, we'll kind of see from there. But well, I mean, it's going to be one of those classes that we're not soon going to forget. And each year it's Ohio State putting together this great receiver class. Oh, next year, oh, this great receiver class. So where are we going to be in 24 with somebody like Jeremiah J.J. Smith? I mean, are they able to get Josiah Trader? Do they like Josiah Trader on offense versus defense? I mean, and there are going to be a lot of wide receivers that are going to emerge. I'm going to admit I don't have my full packet put together on 24 as of this point, but I'm not betting against Ohio State. Having another great class in 24 and us sitting here 365 days from now having a very similar conversation.
Yeah, and just a really good stat from our buddy Braden Moles from Buckeye Sports Bulletin. Uh, Assuming they get Innis as well, Tate and Innis would be just the ninth combination of five-star wide receivers to sign in the same class. You mentioned the Jackson Smith and Jigba Julian Fleming for Ohio State in 2020. That's one of them. The other seven that have happened before: Texas A&M in 2022, Oklahoma 2019, Texas 2010, LSU and USC in 2004, Florida 2003, Clemson 2001. So just the fourth time in the last 12 years potentially that we're talking about a team signing two five-star wide receivers in the same class. Again, that Brandon Innis is not committed yet, but if that all follows through, and it seems like that's sort of where things may be trending right now, that puts that in some context in terms of just how elite this class could be in terms of college football history. You mentioned the 2024 wide receivers there. One of the other names we saw last week, Tysier Denmark, a wide receiver out of the Philadelphia area. He was very impressive. He's someone who Ohio State seems like they're in decent shape with already, but there's a long way to go on that one. So that was last week's camp. We have our last day of camp coming up today at Ohio State for the summer, the final summer camp. We're finishing camp season with a bang. 2024 commit Dylan Raiola will be there, as you mentioned earlier. I'm looking forward to not only seeing him throw in person, but also seeing just who he's hanging out with and possibly trying to get him to join as a commitment. What are you maybe most interested in seeing out of Dylan Raiola today?
Yeah, I just want to see him throw. I want to see him throw. His younger brother, Dayton Raiola, who's a 2026 quarterback, will be there. Let's see this kid go. So I'll be focused on the quarterback position. They're going to have 2023 offensive lineman Jordan Hall in, who's camped 3 or 4 times now. Will Smith Jr. will be there. He'll get another sandwich and another shirt. So we'll see who's there, but it'll be interesting because there's no doubt that Dylan Raiola is 100% in with Ohio State and is a very active and vocal recruiter. So who's he going to be working on? I mean, how is that all going to be set up? But I think that quarterback is where my eye is going to be drawn for this. At least for the PM session, for the AM session. As I said, Jordan Hall is somebody. I've seen him grow from Camp 1 to Camp 3, and I think this will be his fourth go around. Let's see. Let's see how he does on the reps. What he's able to do there. It'll be nice to be able to get these camps in the books. Give me a month and I'll be missing camps. But right now, another day that it looks like it's going to be mid to upper 90s in Columbus. Um, Yeah, I'm ready to put that behind me. Had a piece of equipment walk away from me at a camp as well. I'm ready to put that behind me as well, and let's just turn the page.
97 degrees, get that SPF 5000 sunscreen out because it's going to be another warm one out at the Woody Hayes. But they, as I said, they're ending this camp season with a bang. Not only the guys you mentioned, but also 2024 running back Stacey Gage. He's someone that we had heard was going to be there last week, and then ended up having to push his trip back to today. So he's someone I think a lot of people have been excited to see for a while. What should people know about Stacey Gage, the 2024 running back?
Yeah, just a hair under 6 foot, 200 pounds, IMG Academy, 24, 4-star type of guy, maybe a little bit better than that even. Um, Certainly has interest in Ohio State. While we were kind of building up, talking to him, I pulled up his profile on one of the other networks, and they have him. One person has him predicted to Oklahoma, but they're notoriously bad for predicting everybody to Oklahoma. So, I think this one's pretty wide open here. I'll be interested to. I really want to get a chance to see what type of runner he is, because we sit there, we're like, all right, let's just round up and say 6 foot 200. Not every 6 foot 200 back is the same. You have the guy that is the fleet of foot, and that has that can sit there and plant the foot in the ground and make the move. You have the guy that's the little bowling ball. I mean, what type of back is Stacey Gage? And while we're not necessarily going to get to see him run over people, I'm sure that Tony Alford will be out there with his little obstacle course that he'll have set up for these guys, and we'll all be there on the grass field watching him go through here. But this will be a major learning process, since I didn't have the opportunity to go through IMG Academy on Southern Swing. So this will be the first time that I have actually been able to lay eyes on him. But everything I've seen on his huddle film has been fantastic.
It's always, I've talked to Bill and Mark in previous weeks about, the pros and cons of camps, and you can only see so much, but you do get to see it in person, and there is stuff you can glean from watching a lot of these guys run through some of these individual drills. So, and then obviously you get to see the one-on-one period at the end, which is where you really start to get a sense for how they match up against some other really good players in the on the other side of the ball. They do a really good job of matching those guys up, so you really get some one-on-one looks there. So we will be covering that all day today at the Woody Hayes. Busy morning, busy afternoon. The big men in the morning, the skill guys in the afternoon. We will have complete coverage there. We will have, if we have any more recruiting news, we'll probably have an instant reaction podcast at some point today if there's any more commitments. But for now, that'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.